All right, next up on our agenda is our Grow Showcase. And we're gonna have our presenters present part 3. And yes, for those of you who haven't been able to join us the last couple of months, this is part 3 of a 3-part series. But I've got some good news for you that we do record all of our presentations, and E4E has a YouTube channel. So I know there's absolutely no question that after you see and hear part 3 today, you're going to either want to go back and revisit part 1 and part 2, or actually see them for the first time. I can assure you they have been excellent this series. And so I'm excited today to hear the content of part 3. So in our Think Differently series last month, Kara Gamber told us about her trials and tribulations of starting her business. Kara candidly shared how she reclaimed her time, took back her business, and has the perspective that everything she has done in her life has set the stage for what is now on the horizon. This month, for the 3rd and final presentation in the Think Differently series, Bill Purnett and Tom Ruwitch will share Tom's stories about his business journey. Tom will share his notable experiences and his many changing shifts in vision, controlling what he could control while constantly reshaping a zigzag path to an ever-changing adventure. Bill and Tom tell us about how you have learned and experienced firsthand that you can't predict your future, but you can control it, and share any tips for us to navigate our own uncharted waters.
Linda, thank you for that intro. It's good to see everybody today. Happy Thanksgiving before I forget. I first became aware of Tom Ruwitch in 2008 when we first started our company, Simply Successful. I didn't even know Tom's name. 9 out of 10 email marketing that I received had the company name Market Volt at the bottom of the email. As E4E became more widely known, Tom became an E4E partner. Tom was quickly ramping Market Volt up. He planned to move Market Volt from company creation to company building. Most of you likely familiar with the original E-Myth. You may not be as familiar with the most recent book, where Michael Gerber talks about the purpose for starting a business is to build it so that you can one day transfer ownership of the business to someone else. So welcome to the newest chapter of Tom's business, Story Power Marketing. Tom will tell you more about that transition in just a minute. One of the reasons why Tom has been able to build his company is that he is always improving his competence. Tom knew intuitively that competence was a process that ultimately leads to improved results. Let's share a few of the keys behind Tom's success. In addition to working on personal growth, Tom has a heart for people. When he sold his business, one of the most important conditions of the sale was the fate of the employees that have served him well over the years. Tom knew intuitively that systems are critical to overcoming the random nature of running and growing a business. Tom took his time to think things through. He was very deliberate in how he got things accomplished in a systematic manner. By thinking critically, Tom was able to anticipate and solve problems quickly and efficiently. Tom's success is proof that results come about due to what we think about, how we behave, and ultimately what we act on. Tom, tell us more about how your personal journey was influenced by your family heritage, adapting and making choices that ultimately led to results that you couldn't possibly imagine when you started your entrepreneurial journey.
Well, Bill, thank you so much for that very, very kind introduction. I kind of just want to stop and let that be the end of the story after that kindness. But I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint and I will share that story. So I'm hopeful that everybody can see my screen right now. And I'm going to go into slideshow mode. Are we simply seeing one slide, no notes?
One slide.
Excellent. Brian, I'll call you later and tell you how I did it.
Thanks. I need technological help, I guess.
All right. So my great-grandfather, Joseph, my great-great-grandfather, Joseph Ruwitch, was born in 1852 in a place known today as Ukraine. Back then, it was part of Russia called the Pale of Settlement. That was a massive area created by the Tsar Catherine the Great for the Jews, a place where the Jews could be kept separate, a place where they could be kept down. During the 19th century, authorities forced Jews to move from the heart of Russia, St. Petersburg, Moscow, and so forth, to the Pale. Some were rounded up and sent there in chains, uprooted from happy lives in the larger cities and towns, exiled to the hinterlands to live in poverty. If you've seen Fiddler on the Roof, you know the place, and you may recall that Russian soldiers, Cossacks, used to raid these Jewish villages. Historians call these violent and destructive raids pogroms. It was the desire to escape this place, to escape these pogroms, that led Joseph Ruwitch to the United States of America. His vision: travel to the land of milk and honey, make enough money to support his family, summon them to join him. He left behind a wife and 3 kids who were clinging to that hope. He scraped together enough money to pay a Christian farmer to smuggle him in a hay wagon out of the Pale. He made his way to Germany, where he boarded a ship in Hamburg, and then he steamed across the Atlantic. When he arrived in New York, 1886 or so, this is what he might have seen. The Statue of Liberty was under construction around the time he would have arrived, and he did land at Ellis Island. He didn't know a word of English, and he was nearly penniless, but he had relatives and friends from the old country, and they had settled in Wisconsin. So he traveled by train from New York to Milwaukee with no idea what lay ahead. When he arrived in Wisconsin, he met a man who offered him work. The man gave him a backpack full of household goods, flatware, needles, thread, fabrics, pots and pans. And the instructions were: walk north and sell. And that's what Joseph did. He probably looked something like this, trudging northwards on the dirt roads, finding his way from town to town, farmhouse to farmhouse, selling door to door without a car or even a horse to carry him. Arrangements were made for Joseph to connect with suppliers along the way. He would exchange his earnings for new goods to refill his pack, and he would travel on. He had little idea where he was going, but with his wife and kids in mind, he had a vision of where he wanted to be. 2 or 3 years later, he made it all the way across Wisconsin to a town called Norway in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Norway was a relatively vibrant community, rich in iron ore, lots of miners and lumberjacks to buy Joseph's goods. So he stopped walking and he set up shop there. His little home goods shop quickly grew, and by 1889, he had enough money to send for the family. His wife, Minna, and his children, Julius, Bessie, and my great-grandfather, Simon, joined him in Norway. And the shop continued to grow. By the late 19th century, it was a full-fledged department store. Known by locals as the Ruwitch store, Joseph Ruwitch and Sons Incorporated prospered and eventually grew to occupy an entire block on Norway's main street. When Joseph Ruwitch first began to form his vision of escaping the Pale and living in the land of milk and honey, he could not have imagined the odyssey before him. He could not have imagined where he might land. He must have encountered countless hurdles. The details of his plan must have shifted countless times. He might have quit. He might have failed. But he didn't. He adjusted to what life dealt him. And he literally traveled to and fro on foot until he landed in a place he couldn't have envisioned. But ultimately, his vision was about achieving safety and comfort and peace for his family. And he achieved that vision. This is a rendering of the Ruwitch store at its height. This rendering is part of a commemorative plate used for advertising that was created in the early 20th century, around 1905. And this plate that you see on the screen is sitting on a bookshelf in my home office next to my desk where I sit every day. It's a reminder of Joseph's journey, an inspiration for me on my journey. So why have I shared this? Why have I told you Joseph's story and shared his odyssey? Because it reflects the odyssey that all of us are on in business and in life. Many months ago, Bill asked me to share insights with you about my business odyssey. And as I considered how to tell my story, I came across a video from the 1960s. This is a screen clip. It's Ted Kennedy delivering the eulogy for his brother Bobby, who had been gunned down just a few days earlier. It was a very powerful speech. And toward the end of that speech, Kennedy says this: "Our future may lie beyond our vision, but it is not completely beyond our control." I'm going to repeat that. Our future may lie beyond our vision, but it is not completely beyond our control. I sent an email to Bill and told him the name for this presentation. You can't predict your future, but you can control it. In that email, I said this: the business journey is an odyssey. It's not a straight line from vision conceived to vision achieved. It's a journey with shifting vision, controlling what we can control, a zigzag path to new vision achieved. So as Bill and I discussed this further, I told him the story of Joseph Ruwitch, and we agreed that the dots connect between my great-great-grandfather, Ted Kennedy's powerful words, my business journey, and yours. Our future may lie beyond our vision, but it is not completely beyond our control. Which brings me to MarketVolt. That's the email marketing company I founded in 2001. I was younger then. I had big ideas to build a software company that could grow quickly and make millions. And eventually I would sell the company and cash out and be another dot-com millionaire, billionaire, whatever it might have been. It was hazy, but I had a vision, a North Star to follow as I began my odyssey. So I headed north and began to sell. And of course, it wasn't a straight line. It wasn't a straight line from vision conceived to vision achieved. I hit many, many, many crossroads. Technical hurdles. We didn't roll out software improvements as quickly as I would have hoped and imagined. Management mistakes. I hired too many salespeople who weren't ready, and I did not train them properly. Competitors entered the space and changed the landscape, and other external factors shifted. So here's what happens when business people discover their journey is this zigzag odyssey and they're not zooming straight ahead to vision achieved. Some people freeze, some retreat, some wallow in misery, some feel like they're the victim, some think it's not in the cards, some think it isn't turning out how I expected, so they turn around and go home, without recognizing that what they expected was hazy at best. Others choose to control what they can control, to adjust, to zig and zag, to keep heading north, even though their vision may still be hazy or it may be shifting. At Market Vault, I recognized several things that were under my control. I could choose the kind of work I wanted to do each day. And I recognized that I enjoyed consulting and service work much more than I enjoyed software development and sales. This meant the business would not scale and grow as quickly as I first imagined, but I would enjoy the work more and my clients would benefit in ways that they could not when working with just a pure software company. I noticed that my coworkers enjoyed being part of a small team, and I treasured knowing all of them. I treasured knowing their spouses and partners, knowing their children. I looked forward to our annual holiday party when we could toast the arrival of new babies from the past year and babies who were coming in the upcoming year. I began to see the purpose of my business as helping to create and build happy families. And so the idea of building a company with hundreds of employees whom I didn't know became less appealing than building quality relationships with employees whom I saw as part of the Market Vault family. And as I focused on the things I could control, as I zigged and zagged, I understood my journey wasn't that straight line zoom to .com riches, but I was moving forward and I was feeling that I was building a successful company. Last year, I entered into merger discussions with another company, and my criteria for the deal were as follows in order of importance. Number one, create a landing place and good opportunities for my Market Vault family. Number two, serve Market Vault's existing clients and give them a seamless transition to something better. And number three, deliver fair return to me and the other, pardon me, I'm sorry. Deliver fair return to me and the other Market Vault shareholders. On January 1st, Market Vault merged with Benchmark Email. And we checked all of those boxes. Oops, sorry, I lost. Do you have the screen now? Are we good?
I haven't touched anything.
Okay, can you see my, do you see the Market Vault logo? Because
Yeah.
it said
Yes.
it said we lost the share for a second. Okay, Benchmark now?
Yep.
Excellent, sorry for the interruption.
Yeah.
So on January 1st, Market Vault merged with Benchmark Email and we checked all the boxes. And as I reflect on this, I think about my original idea to build a giant software company and achieve massive riches. And 19 years after that, after I hatched that vision, I cut a deal in which shareholder return was the least important priority. Some might hear that story and say, I abandoned my original vision, but I don't see it that way. The original vision was hazy at best. It served as a guiding star. It set me in motion. It got me moving upward and northward. And as I moved, my perspective on the horizon was constantly shifting. So where am I now? As the merger approached, I developed a vision and hatched plans for this, Story Power Marketing, my new company. I help coaches and consultants and other business leaders power up their stories so that they can attract better and more abundant leads. They can keep prospects leaning in and paying attention, and they can inspire prospects to act. The business leverages my strengths. It lets me do what I love, and it offered a good transition from Market Vault to the next chapter. Benchmark acquired the software and software clients from Market Vault, but it did not include the service clients. So with Story Power, I continued to work with many clients whom Market Vault had served. The company started less than 12 months ago, but there's already been plenty of zigging and zagging. First, there was this. I don't know about you, but I don't have any experience launching a new company during a global pandemic. You talk about shifting horizons. Yeah, the pandemic does make it difficult to network, and people are struggling, and some clients are cutting back and budgets are tight. The way we're accustomed to doing business, the way I imagine building my business has shifted, but we adjust. We've zigged and zagged. We've kept heading north, even though the vision is hazy and the horizon is shifting. Then there's this. That's my wife, Melissa, standing on a gravel bar next to Hoosick Creek at our family's farm in Crawford County. When I was in my 20s and 30s, starting companies with big plans for massive growth, I didn't mind working 70 or 80 hours a week. In fact, I thought that was the price of admission. But my view of the horizon has shifted. I'm still pursuing a big vision, but I'm structuring my business and my life so I have more work-leisure balance. So I can spend more time with my family on my farm. So I can play the piano when I want to. So I can walk the dog and read a book and soak in life that is not just about building my business. It means my business model is already shifting. I'm focusing less on acquiring one-to-one consulting and coaching clients. I'm focusing more on content that I can sell and deliver to many people at once. Online trainings, group coaching, information products that I supplement with selective one-on-one coaching. I'm working hard to develop this content, which I'll be launching next month. And I'm working to enhance the things I can control that will make my business stronger and help me achieve that vision. For example, I'm learning new ways to delegate and share tasks among a work-at-home distributed workforce. I'm learning to spend time on the things only I can do and hand off the things I don't need to do. Without an office, this is a new and challenging, interesting challenge. But I'm adapting. And all the while, I glance every day at the plate on my bookshelf, and I think about great-great-grandfather Joseph, and I keep heading north. Thanks very much.